Hi and welcome to the channel. In today's video we'll be using Drift, and I think this video will be of particular interest to people who only have the intro version of Drift. You can use it in standard and suite, but we'll really be looking at, that old adage of make use of what you have, and using some of the effects that are available within intro and combining them with Drift to really change the character of that instrument and allow you to pull out some really interesting sounds. Now we'll have a look at how the rack works, then I'll show you as always how you can build this rack for your own music if you're interested. Okay, so let's have a look what's going on in the rack. It's not too difficult, and as I say, all of the effects here and Drift, they're available in the intro, so if you have intro you can really make some nice changes to the instrument and get some more sound possibilities out of it. Let's have a look what we have in the rack then. Very simply, we have Drift here, which I've set up in a particular manner. We'll go through all this when I show you how to build the rack. Then we have some things to degrade the sound: redux, erosion, EQ3, auto filter, and finally a limiter at the end just to catch any sort of excessive volumes. Now I'm using the auto filter here because it has more possibilities than the filter in Drift. We have drive circuits, this MS2 circuit I'm using here, and also we have the possibility here to morph the sound, so perhaps we can have a look at that very quickly. We'll go through the rack. Let's start then with the filter here. We can morph with this model between high and low pass, so a little bit more flexibility there. Then if we go through the rest of the rack, we have simply control over some elements of control over Drift here. As I say, Drift is set up in a particular way, and here we can change the wave shapes and influence what's going on in Drift. Oscillator 2 wave shape, level oscillator 2, and we also have control over the ADSR, this envelope here, so we can control that from the rack. Then we have the more interesting things. Let's just reset this down to our sine waves again. So we just have sine waves playing here, but we can now introduce FM, so some frequency modulation. Let's say we have our filter at the back, looking for different tones, and then we have a thing called crunch, which is connected to these here. Let's close this. When we operate crunch here, we'll see that we're affecting the bit rate, we're using erosion, and we're also adjusting here our EQ. Let's turn our FM down to really degrade the sound and find some. This is just a sine wave playing. Take that off, and then we can drive this as well. You see the filter drive is working here. We're adjusting the EQ here, again looking for different tones, and then so we can FM all of this, or at least put the FM frequencies through this. And then finally at the bottom here we have this charm, which adjusts various things in the rack. We can see the width here is moving. It also adjusts a few things on Drift. We can see the detune is moving, and here some more pitch modulation and some other parameters which we'll get into the build. So this, if I turn off this, go back to our sine, you can hear that has a very subtle, maybe some FM, some subtle detune and other effects. So all of these things combine to allow us to as I say, get a little bit more from the drift instrument. And sometimes it's best not to be too aggressive with these controls. Remember, we're just using sine waves here. Until you find some nice tones. Another thing you can do, of course, I like to do a lot, is just to randomize these macros. These 4 here are excluded from randomization. I can't remember, there's a couple more. Let's randomize and see what happens. So the filter morph is also excluded, and I've excluded these so that you can set if you're looking for a particular tone, let's say a pluck, you can set this up for a pluck and then randomize away until you find something you like. So those are also part of the rack as well. So yeah, okay, so as I say, there's not much more to say. It's just I could look at these are snapshots I've made. Once you find macros you like macro positions, you can create here a variation, and that will generate effectively a preset, because you could save this here as a drift preset, but you would lose all of the settings in these effects here. So to retain the sound that you found or developed, you would be better off making a snapshot here and then saving the rack here. This you would find in your user library. Close these presets, instruments, so presets, instruments, instrument rack, and you would find it there. You can drop it into any project you want. Is there anything else to say? I think that's pretty much it. As I say, let's have a look how it's put together. It's not too difficult, and you can build it quite quickly. You're going to need then an instrument rack. You'll find that in Instruments, Instrument Rack. Just drop one onto a MIDI channel. You can open it here with this icon for the macro controls. I've kept my original names for my rack. You can rename them here, right click rename, choose your own names or use mine. We'll open these up, all 16. Now, what we're going to do is first we'll drop in the instruments and effects, then we'll set them all up, and then finally we'll do the mapping with the constraints, and everything should be okay. So we'll put drift in to begin with, and then we just put our audio effects here in behind it. Now the first one we're going to need is the redux here. Just drop that in the back of the rack. Then we have erosion here, an EQ3 here, the auto filter, and this is made with Ableton Live 12.4, so this has the latest audio filter, at least. Oh, excuse me, that's not what we want. Delete that. I want the auto filter. It has the latest auto filter in it, this one here. And then finally at the very back of the rack we'll just put a limiter, and then we'll go through and set them all up. So we'll start with the limiter. This one we need to just activate the soft clip. That's everything there. For the auto filter I chose the MS2 model here, and I also put the clip on here. I selected here the morph so that we get the morph parameter at the bottom, and this one I've set up with a sample and hold on the LFO, and I've set that at 100% smooth. I've kept it on rate, but I've really cranked that up to 60 Hz. So that will this we will map, but then you'll see this will happen. The filter frequency cutoff point will be modulated, but we'll map this later. So that's the auto filter as well. EQ3, I think let me just check here. I adjusted this one down to 130. Here I reduced the noise blend to 0. nothing else to do here, that'll be mapped. And also this one, there's nothing to do here, so this will be mapped. Let's have a look at drift. A couple of settings here. This one I set to 0, envelope 2 amount. I've activated the LFO 1 to 1, which effectively gives us FM modulation of the pit of the oscillators here via this LFO, which we'll map in a minute. Let's just have a look. We're not using this, so we don't have to do anything here. I think that's pretty much everything. Okay, so now we can go through and do our mapping. So we'll start with the easy one. So oscillator 1 wave. So we're going to mapping here. So we'll take the wave for oscillator 1 here, map that there. Oscillator 1 shape here. Oscillator 2 wave here. Oscillator 2 octave, this one. And then the level for oscillator 2 is this box here. Then we have the FM level, which is, as I mentioned, this LFO down here. So we'll map that. We'll leave these two for a second. We'll do the ADSR. A for attack. The sustain and the release here. Then we can just double click on drift for a second and close it. We'll map the filter frequency here, the resonance, this box here, and the filter morph here. So we'll just map those. Okay, so now we'll go back to drift, just double click it again and open it, and we'll set up this crunch to begin with. So the crunch has the redux sample rate, this one here, we'll map that there. It also has erosion frequency. Actually we'll close drift. Erosion frequency here, this one, it also goes on crunch. And then we have the low gain here for the EQ3, the crunch drive. We have the erosion amount here. We also have the mid gain here on the EQ. Then we have the filter drive here, this box here. And on our limiter, we take this input gain here. So what we'll do is, as we increase the crunch drive, increase the volume through drive, we'll also reduce that here via these constraints. We'll set that up a bit later, or with when you punch in the values here. I'll put some screenshots up in a second. You can pause the video and put the values I have in the screenshots in here, and that will include everything to manage things like that. Okay, so what else do we have? Then we have just a charm at the bottom. This one here has the oscillator 2, so we have to open up drift. Oscillator 2 detune here. It has this envelope 2 value here, pitch mod. Then we also have the redux bit depth, this one. The erosion filter width, so we're going to close drift again. So the erosion width here. Then we also have the stereo width here, both of those there. Then the LFO amount from the auto filter here. So that one there, we will map to that. Right, so that's everything here. As I say, I'll put the screenshots up now, put the values in. Just be careful with things like volume and drive levels. Be careful, make sure they're correct. And then we'll come back and test the rack. Okay, so as I say, just be careful with some of the drive values here and the volume levels. Make sure they're correct. Let's come out of the mapping now. We save the rack, as I say, here. That puts it in your user library, presets, presets, instruments, instrument rack. Okay, now we can try out the rack, see if we have anything. I'll put my bass on again. If you find any macro positions you like, you just create a new variant here. Let's try one. Actually, we'll randomize. I'll just create a new one here. I don't know, hollow, sounds hollow to me. ADSR, you want to right click these and exclude them from randomization, these four, and also the filter morph is also excluded. Right click, exclude that. Okay, let's maybe something a bit more. Okay, they all work. Well, it looks good. Can we change the waves? Let's open up drift. It's all connected. Octaves. Okay. Looks good. As I say, I hope this is useful and that you can make use of it in music. Particularly helpful, as I mentioned in the intro, for people who just have the intro version. Try these things, try out your effects, see what you can get with drift. It's really quite a nice instrument. And yeah, I hope it's useful, and thank you for watching. Take care.